So at this point, I've used ChatGPT to identify the theme, the storyline, and the characters for the McKinsey 7S model of change. So the next step is to create props from the lesson materials. So we're not quite ready for puzzles yet, but I have to identify what content do I need them to actually see and read over. It's that important that they actually need to see it in an unaltered, unchaotic form. And then I'm going to finalize the final puzzle. So let me show you what I did. So here's the course. And as I went through it, I knew I wanted them to see this diagram, and I needed them to know the definitions of each of the 7 S's. I needed them to understand the process. And so I looked through that, and, and that's what I figured out. And so I went into Canva and start from the beginning here. And so the first thing I did is I created an introduction because I know, hey, I need to tell them what's going on in this escape room. And I created this little email from Amelia Sterling that tells them what their goal is and what they need to do. And so this actually helps me with the final puzzle. They need to analyze current misalignments in our system, identify gaps, and create an action plan to bring our elements into harmony. So that's going to resolve the conflict if they can do those things. Then I've got to jump through this here because, of course, this is completed at this point, but I'm just walking you through how I went through this step by step. I knew I wanted them to see the model of change, and I wanted it to just be a diagram of 1 through 5. Now, these letters that are highlighted, that came later. Originally, it was just the 5 steps. Okay, this is a newsletter about the McKinsey model that I just wanted them to have access to that basic content. I knew I wanted them to define each one, so I went ahead and made these definition cards, and then I figured out how to turn that into a puzzle. And then I knew I wanted them to use this diagram, so later on, I figured out how to turn it into the puzzle that you see there, but it didn't look like that to begin with. So basically, I dumped content into props first. No puzzles, didn't know where I was going to go. I mean, of course, I was thinking about it, but I didn't really know where I was going to go. And I know the final puzzle has to be that action plan. So it's important to remember that that final puzzle solves the problem. So that's what they're working towards. Everything they're doing is helping them to solve that final puzzle. Because, they can't create an action plan until they know what's wrong, the 7 S's that are wrong. And they can't identify what's wrong with the 7 S's until they know what the 7 S's actually are. So you see how it's this progression as they go through the escape room. So right now you might be kind of confused, like I don't get where she's going with this or what this means. It's all going to make sense as we go through. So just hang with me. It's complicated. Like I said, making an escape room is an escape room in and of itself. This is all going to start to come together here actually very quickly. Some puzzles to be thinking about while you're making these props of the content that you actually need them to read and see in a very clean format is, can you make it into a matching activity? Could it be easily put in order? Could they have to make a choice? Can I make this decoded in some way? Should it be timed? Could it lead to some location where there's an additional clue? Could I have them put it in a reverse order? Is there something I can have them do that then I can be the key that pushes them or gives out the next set of clues? What could they say to me or do after looking at this content that I would know that they had solved some kind of problem to move to the next step? So those are just some things to think about as you're building out the content props. And then your assignment is to read pages 48 through 56 in the book, which we take you there, 48 through 56. It's just going to be about how to think about puzzles. So this is not how to build the puzzles. This is how to start thinking about it as you're working with your content and turning it into props. Can you make it into a matching activity or into a diagram? Can you have them do some kind of role play or simulation? And in the end, they give you some conclusion that you either approve or disapprove. Could there be some kind of trivia? Some kind of encoding or decoding? Can you hide a clue in the content? These are just things to think about as you're building out those props. This is going to help you understand the final puzzle and why it's important and how to just kind of think that through. And then here are some realistic final puzzles, like, for example, complete a jigsaw puzzle or build a model. Those are realistic and quick final puzzles. These are my go-tos, honestly, that I use a lot. When I have extra time and I'm feeling extra creative, I will try one of these other sample final puzzles. For example, a musical instrument. Play a sequence representing a team's milestones to unlock a hidden compartment. This would take so much time to build this final puzzle in a way that made sense, and people would have to know how to play music, and I would have to learn how to understand music, which that's not something I'm willing to learn how to do. A DNA sequence analysis. Match key work processes to simulate progress and actions for a DNA sequence. So that's going to be, if you're doing some kind of biology type of escape room. So these are more out there, in my own opinion. A magnetic puzzle. So manipulate magnetic tools. Like, that's going to take way too long. So anyway, there are the realistic final puzzles in there for you to use. And then I think, yep, that's it. So you're going to read that section of the book, and then you will come back for the puzzles that we will actually start building finally in the next video.